Welcome to the Beehive, you bumblebees, and thanks for stopping by today. We have some great shows coming up today, tonight, and tomorrow morning. And tomorrow morning we have the legendary Bruce the Fox Penhall. He's going to be live in the Hive. We can't wait to see Juicy Brucey in the Hive. We like that guy. He was a two-time United States and two-time world champion. So we're excited to have Bruce Penhall in the Hive. It's gonna be California time tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. You won't want to miss it. But tonight we have another legendary personality in the Speedway and Motorsports world. We're so happy to have him on the show tonight, and we're grateful. This guy's done everything. I mean, he's a legend of all legends. We're so happy to have him on the show, and we're grateful for him for being here. And we'd like to go ahead and announce tonight's show. It's right here. Where is it? Right here. The amazing Larry Huffman. Larry, how you doing, buddy?
Good to be on, buddy. How you doing?
Oh, so good to see you. How you been doing okay?
Doing okay. Had a number of operations on my foot, but I'm almost back to walking again.
We're going to talk about that. So hang on, Larry. You have a rich history and is a legendary. You're a legend announcer. And I just wanted to know how you got the nickname Supermouth. How did that happen?
The LA Times did a story on me back in the 70s, and the headline was, "It's a bird, it's a plane, it's Supermouth." And I think it was based, besides my announcing, on the fact that I can do 300 words a minute on radio commercials. That's when Marshall Klein of the Times wrote a story, and that helped a lot.
Wow. So I heard some of those commercials you did, like for the Grant Boys and stuff like that in Costa Mesa when you were, and you were the voice of Grant Boys too.
I think I've done about 7,000 commercials in my career.
I saw you when I made some movies when I was a little younger, and I was in the studio. I think it was in like Anaheim or Fullerton. It was like off the 91 freeway. I think it was off of like Orangethorpe or Gliselle. I think there's a studio there, and I was working with my friend's movie, and I turned to the next booth, and I saw you, Larry Huffman, doing a commercial over there off of and I said, "Oh, there's Larry Huffman." Do you remember that studio, or do you not? Off of the 91 and Gliselle, I think.
I've been at a bunch of studios. I vaguely remember that one, but yeah.
You've done so many. I never remember that until now. You've done 7,000 commercials?
I figure it's about 7,000 commercials over the last 30 years, 40 years.
Oh, well, you must be tired by now.
The mouth is still working. The voice is still there, so nothing else works, but the voice is working.
The voice is the last thing to go, Larry.
Yeah, probably right, Brian.
Keep it up. Hang in there. You're doing great. And I was just going to ask you this question, like, how in the world did you get into announcing? I mean, how old were you? And where did you get your first gig as an announcer? How did all that happen?
Well, I was back about 1967, I think, that I announced some races at El Toro Speedway. And after the first night, I went up to the promoter and I said, "I'd like to get paid." And he said, "Don't worry, your money's in the bank," and it's still there because I never got paid. That was my first job, El Toro Speedway. I got hired at Costa Mesa in 1969. $25 a night.
You got $100 at Costa Mesa a night? 100 or 25?
$25 to start with.
Oh, those cheap Oxleys.
Well, no, Oxley was very good. He paid, it went up as the crowds went up, and by the mid-70s, I'm told Costa Mesa Speedway was the largest weekly motorsports event in North America, which is unbelievable. When you were racing,
what year did, yeah.
In 74, we had In 1974, we had 4 sellouts at Costa Mesa. I was told the seating capacity was 8,800, and we had standing room only 4 times. A lot of it had to do with Bruce Penhall because he was coming on and everybody loved him.
It was amazing. That was just amazing. The crowds that came out, you know, Costa Mesa, and you did a really good job, Larry. You did a good job.
Well, my wife just handed me a note. She says, talk about you being a disc jockey. I was a disc jockey on the radio before I got into announcing events, and that helped me with Harry Oxley because he knew I'd give him exposure on the radio. But I was not a great disc jockey, and my voice was so high that my only listeners were golden retrievers. So that was kind of tough. But eventually, they could hear me on the PA system at the Coliseum, Rose Bowl, you know, Madison Square Garden, all that. They could hear me through all the noise, and that's where my voice really helps.
Well, your voice is golden. I mean, in the Speedway world, it was like Larry Huffman and Bruce Flanders, and those are the 2 all-time legends of announcing Speedway and other sports too, but especially in the Speedway world. You guys were like the bomb. You guys were the best.
Bruce was indeed a legend. It's a tragedy that he died last, but he was a hell of an announcer.
Yeah, it's sad he passed away, and we all miss, you know, Bruce Flanders so much because he just had that baritone voice and he had that banter to him. He was amazing. He was amazing. We miss Bruce. So, how old were you? So you were just like in your 20s, right, or 30s when you started announcing like that?
I was in my 20s. Yeah.
I remember you used to have these really cool sports cars when you used to like lease these really nice sports cars. I remember hearing about that. And you would expire your lease and get a new sports car. Is that right?
Well, I'd buy them. I'd actually buy them. I had a Pantera. I had a bunch of Porsches and Corvettes because I like fast cars. It's fun. Cheaper than drugs.
Oh, buying is better than leasing, that's for sure.
Well, it was for me. Although I still lost money when I sold them, but it was fun. Ask me about Robert Redford Speedway.
What happened?
I think it was 1970, and we were doing the U.S. versus the world, the Americans against Ivan Major, Barry Briggs, Bert Hawkins, and we had a 3-day race, Friday night, Saturday night, and then Sunday afternoon. And it was totally sold out the whole weekend. And the first night, Robert Redford, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid had just come out. And he was hot. And he and his buddy were staying in Newport Beach, and they heard about Costa Mesa. They may have seen you then. And they came to the race on Friday night. We were sold out. So Redford went up to Marilyn Oxley, Harry Oxley's wife, and he said, we have no place to sit. And she didn't recognize him. And she said, all right, I'm going to let you sit in the press section, but you have to keep your mouth shut. I don't want any problems. He said, okay, no problem. And he and his buddy sat in the press section next to me. He was 6 feet away from me, and I didn't recognize him. So after the race, Oxley comes up to me and he says, hey, we have Robert Redford in the booth next to you. I said, why didn't you tell me? He said, didn't want a lot of people bugging him. So I got on the mic Saturday night and I explained we have Robert Redford here, and people were booing me. Go home, Huffman. I couldn't tell you. I didn't know. He was there the next night and came back Sunday. He was there. He and his buddy were there all 3 days watching Sundays.
Wow. I think everybody wanted Robert Redford and not you, I think.
Absolutely. One other superstar that I heard recently was there every week with his grandson was John Wayne. I heard he was in the main grandstand up in the corner every Friday night for years, and I never saw him, never knew he was there, but I was told that recently.
I never heard that before.
Yep. That's what I heard.
The Duke, John Wayne of Balboa Island. Rest in peace, John Wayne. We love that guy. So you were the voice of the Supercross for 16 years. And did you travel all around? Like they'd race in like San Diego and Atlanta and Salt Lake
Yeah,
and
I
all
went.
these places. Did you go with it, travel with all those guys? And how was that for 16 years?
It was a lot of fun. It was good money. We went to Pontiac, LA Coliseum, Seattle Kingdom, Texas Stadium, Houston Astrodome, et cetera, et cetera. And it was a lot of fun. I got to know the riders real well. I think they liked me and they trusted me. So it was a good situation.
Nice. I went to a few of those races at the Anaheim Supercross, and I remember
Yep.
we're going to talk about that in just a minute, but not right now. But we're going to get to that, and we're going to talk about a couple of things that I heard you say. But right now, we're going to continue on. And so I was going to ask you a question, Larry. Like, how did you get your gig at like Costa Mesa? And I guess Bruce Flanders was the first announcer, if I'm not mistaken, from what people tell me.
Yes.
I wasn't there.
Yes, he was.
And Bruce Flanders was the first announcer, and you were the second announcer of Costa Mesa. How did you get that job, and what happened? Because Bruce was a pretty good announcer, and you are too.
Then he was just starting out. He just got back from Vietnam, and I heard about Oxley doing Speedway, and I said I'd like to come because I was doing this radio show on KZY and Sound of Speed. So my wife and I went down there and we found the grandstand, and afterward Oxley said, "What do you think?" I said, "I think I can do better. I think I'm a little more experienced, and I'm on the radio." So he fired Bruce and hired me, and that was it. Bruce and I were never really too close after
that. So Harry Oxley came up to you and said, "We want to replace Bruce because you have this experience as a radio DJ."
Well, primarily, but also the fact that I was on the radio did a lot because he knew I would expose people to Speedway, which I did. It was a sport in Orange County, and I talked about it. He realized that was a good way to get the word out, and he liked me, and he trusted what I was doing.
Oh, that's great. Oh, that's good. You got a good gig. You were really legendary at Costa Mesa. I know you're legendary other places, your Supercross.
It was a lot of fun. It really was.
But Costa Mesa was like your big gig, right? I mean, that was like the big show for you.
Interesting, Brian. An interesting thing about Costa Mesa was we brought Carreer helmets into Costa Mesa. I was doing commercials for them. I forget exactly. And we went in there and I said, listen, I told Chuck Finch, the president, I said, you can own Costa Mesa Speedway. You can have every rider wearing a Carreer helmet, winning money on it. Now, all the OEMs, the manufacturers, Yamaha, Suzuki, Kawasaki, Honda, they come to Speedway because they want to see what it's all about. So they would come and they'd see all these Carreer helmets. They'd think, geez, these must be really big. And so that helped Carreer sales for a long time. True story.
Very good. Oh, that's really good. Carreer helmets. I was going to show you an ad I have here. I have an ad from Carreer helmets in one of the programs. I was going to show you, but you forget it. So
okay.
Do you want to see it or no? I can show it to you if you want to see it. I have a Rick Woods. You want to see it?
Yeah. Yeah, let's see it.
Okay, okay, go ahead. I'm going to hide myself. I'm going to ask you this question, and I'm going to find that. So I'm going to hide myself. Who was your favorite Speedway rider that you introduced at Costa Mesa? And can you introduce their names today, kind of similar to what you did back in the day? I'm going to put you on screen.
I mean, Bruce Penhall was super special because we became very good friends. But, Penhall, Wild Bill Cody, Rick Woods, the Huntington Beach Rocket, all of them. I liked all of them. I think most of them liked me. I hope so anyway. But probably Bruce is right.
Everybody loved you, Larry. Okay, I found it. Here's the Premier helmets. Was that Premier Yamaha? Sorry, that's the Yamaha. Sorry, that was the wrong
Premier helmets.
That's the Yamaha dealership.
Yeah. But it's Premier helmets. That's Rick Woods.
Rick Woods wore the Premier helmet, right? Rick Woods wore it.
A lot of guys. They're paying money. If you won and you were wearing a Premier helmet, you got money. They weren't making. Well, they were starting making money when we got 5 tracks going. I was told Mike Bass could pull down $50,000 for 6 months' work, and in the '70s, that was a lot of money. Racing 5 nights a week.
Wow. I mean, with the inflation rate of like the cost of living in the 1970s, and then you
Yeah,
make $50,000, that was like a couple 100,000 or more, right?
yeah, yeah, it was.
Be nice to race Speedway today and make $200,000 in one season.
I think Speedway is going through some real tough challenges right now, Brian. I really do.
Yeah. That's really sad. And so who was your favorite riders that you announced? Penhall and who else? Because you announced a lot of guys. Danny Becker, he was one of the guys.
Yeah, well, Becker was insane. I mean, he could ride on the railing and win a race on the outside. Danny Berserko Becker was incredible. Wild Bill Cody was great. Larry Shaw, George Penhall, Mike Bass, Gene Woods, Rick Woods. I liked them all.
Yeah, they're great. They were just amazing. Those guys are all legends. They're really good. And
They are.
I was gonna ask you, Larry, about the platform that I guess Harry Oxley built this platform for you to do the Huffman Shuffle. Do you remember, Larry, your Huffman Shuffle?
Yeah, it's called the Huffman Hop. It's just a regular table we use for the scoring, and I get up and jump up and down. The crowd seemed to like it, so I kept it up. You know,
I saw you.
Go ahead.
So did they have to build like a platform so you didn't fall down?
No.
You're right above me.
Yeah, no, it's just a regular table. And that's as they scored. Gene Fink scored on that table, and I was jumping up and down on it.
You must have been light back in those days.
No, it's about what I weigh now. You know, 170, 165.
So they had that scorekeeper's table built with a lot of extra wood, you know, just because, you know, anybody jumping on a table.
Well, it never broke.
It's good because you see a lot of these performers like Madonna and all these people, they're dancing and then the platform falls and they're like, oh. So that didn't happen to you.
No, it never did.
Oh, that's pretty good. I'm glad because you may not be here if it broke.
Good point. You won't be seeing it anymore.
How many years did you announce at the Costa Mesa Fairgrounds?
I announced from 1969 to 1979, and I got fired. They actually fired me. I went to Europe to do On Any Sunday too, and he was very angry at me, and so he fired me when I got back. Then he would bring me back from time to time. He would realize he needed me, and he would bring me back, and I worked right up to like 2001. Then I quit. My ego got a hold of me, and I quit, and that was bad. I was doing an awful lot of other things.
Why did Harry Oxley fire you? Because you're like a legend. I would be ashamed if I had to fire you.
No, he was mad at me for going to Europe. I didn't talk to him about it. We went to Europe to shoot On Any Sunday too, and I didn't talk to him about it. He was very upset. I mean, he was within his right, you know.
Mm-hmm. So you're filming, and he was mad. Oh my gosh.
Going to Europe.
So I thought, you know, I was a rider. I just became a young D1 rider back in like 76. I was a very young D1 rider on the 0 and 10-yard line. And they had I think it was the SRA strike back in 76. And if I'm not mistaken, I think you joined the riders in that strike. I was there because my mechanic was Doug Farrell's mechanic. We were a team, I guess you could say. And Jerry Fairchild was my chief mechanic. And Jerry Fairchild was the president of the SRA. So I had to follow because I had no choice. Were you a part of that strike, Larry?
No. If you had Jerry Fairchild as your mechanic, you had a hell of a good mechanic because he was a genius.
Jerry, he picked me up because I was the only D1 rider and the last D1 rider ever to race a JAP and win main events at Costa Mesa, Ventura, Bakersfield, San Bernardino. I won main events, handicap main events, D1 everywhere on a Jerry Fairchild JAP.
He was a genius. He really was, Brian.
You know, he saw me. Jerry saw me as a D3 rider. I was no good. You know, I was riding a 22-inch tire. I didn't even know how to ride. I had no gloves. I was a terrible rider. And Jerry saw me, and he didn't like me probably, but he saw the JP. He saw the JP,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
he saw I was a young lion, and he liked me, and so he picked me up. I didn't know anything about motorcycle mechanics.
yeah, he was brilliant.
Yeah, we miss Jerry. He was like my father, and he picked me up from the garbage. And
You might explain what D1 and D2 and D3 is, because a lot of people may not know what they are.
well, when you go into Speedway, you start off as a raw rookie, a novice. The guys who crash in the walls, like I was. The guys who don't really know how to ride. I only rode a Speedway bike for like 1 week or 2 weeks. So I was a qualified D3 rider because those are the raw rookies in Division 3. So as you move up into D2, you like prove yourself. I raced my first season, which was only 2 weeks or 3 weeks in D3 with Dennis Sagalos. Siggy and I raced the first D3 races together in the same race, and he beat my ass. And then, so we have the D3, and then the next year I went to D2 after practicing. I was actually got really good during the off season. I could actually practice. And the D2 are the intermediate riders of Speedway. They're the guys who are kind of not really bad like the D3, and they're not really good, you know, like the top Division 1 riders. They're the intermediates of the Speedway division. And then the Division 1 is the big guys, the top guns, and they're fast. They're fast as lightning, and they're fast as 300 words a minute that Larry Huffman used to speak.
That's very true.
They're like rockets. And so I actually got to D1 in 76, only about 3 weeks or 2 or 3 weeks after the season started. I went to D2, and then I proved myself by kicking everybody's bunholio. And then they moved me to D1, and that was not so easy.
Yeah, I asked Alan Christian. You might remember him.
Yeah, crazy.
I asked him one time, I said, when you've got a rider in front of you and he's not moving over and you got to pass him, what do you do? He says, I make him move over.
Yeah.
And that's what happened.
I have a picture of me and Alan Christian, crazy Alan Christian, and I think it was a main event, and Alan was coming underneath me really hard on the pole. Alan Christian was the pole rider all the way. And he was charging me, trying to push me, but I happened to be going a little with some speed, and Alan couldn't actually nudge me. he was trying, and he was fast. Alan Christian was, and he would just he was big and strong, and he would just like move you off the pole. But that one race I raced Alan, I had a Fairchild JAP. And Jerry Fairchild is the best mechanic in the world at the time. And my bike was fast.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah. My bike wasn't fast because of me. Like, I wasn't really that good of a rider, really. I mean, I was probably all right. But I was racing a rocket ship, so it made me look good.
Yeah.
You're only as good as what your engine will take you.
Yep.
So
and they had characters
anyways,
like,
so you said about Harry Oxley got mad and fired you for like doing the On Any Sunday thing, part 2. Tell us about that one. We know On Any Sunday we're celebrating the 50-year anniversary this year of the On Any Sunday, the original. And you were involved in the part 2. You were co-writer, and you, I guess, co-produced. And tell us more about, briefly, you know, what happened with the On Any Sunday 2.
Well, I was a host, co-writer, and I was on camera. Went all around the world. We went to Europe, went to Japan, went to all across the United States, Speedway in Europe. And the original was incredible. Bruce Brown did a fantastic job. We did. It was not as ours was not as successful, but I watched it not long ago, and it really held up well. And I was proud to be a part of it, proud to do it, and I'm to me it was good. It was a good movie.
Yeah. I mean, that was great. You're a part of something really special with that on Any Sunday too.
Bruce
Another
Brown,
thing, I read your bio. Thank you for sending me your bio on your accomplishments, your many accomplishments.
Bruce Brown approved of me as the host of On Any Sunday. Bruce Brown was approved of me. He gave his consent.
That's great. Now, Bruce Brown was retired, right, at that time, and his son was like producing it or helping produce it, and Bruce Brown was getting older or something, retired, correct?
Bruce was really the man. He did everything on the original movie On Any Sunday. He was the guy. His kids were pretty young. That's years ago.
But he's passed away now, right? Bruce Brown, he's passed away?
He had his wife passed away.
Oh, very sad. He was a legendary filmmaker. I mean, that guy, I mean, his surf movies, his motorcycle movies. Wow.
Yeah, he was great. He really was. He was a genius.
I mean, I watched that movie he made. It wasn't a motorcycle movie, but I watched that movie he made probably 100 times. What's it called? Oh gosh, I had it in my mind. Endless Summer. The Endless Summer. Yeah. The surf movie. That was cool.
Yeah, there's some interesting stories about what he did back then. He told me at one time he did On Any Sunday. I believe it was either Endless Summer or On Any Sunday, and it was showing at a theater in the Midwest. And he got a call from a movie company wanting to see it. And they want to release it. I forget which one it was. And he had to wait till it was done at the theater in the Midwest to take that film to New York to play it for him. True story.
Well, the big cities get the first run, and then the Midwest, the little country cow towns, they're later, right?
You have to understand, this was the movie company wanted to see it. They wanted to see the movie. There's only one print, according to Bruce. So they had to wait till it was shown in the Midwest, then fly it to New York. Malcolm told me an interesting story one time about doing On Any Sunday. They shot a lot of it, and a lot of people don't know this, but they shot a lot of it at Camp Pendleton because it was Steve McQueen, Mert Lawler, and Malcolm. And so they would ride the back part of Camp Pendleton in San Diego County because the commanding general allowed him because it was Steve McQueen. And Malcolm told me that they'd finish the day of shooting, and they would go to Bruce Brown's house in Dana Point and get in the hot tub. And he said McQueen was covered with cuts and scratches because he kept falling down. He wasn't that good a rider. And Mert Lawler and Malcolm would run around and run circles around. I have one Steve McQueen story if you're interested.
So was that the ending of the original On Any Sunday when they're doing those jumps and stuff over in the mountains? I thought that was like in Mexico. That was in Camp Pendleton?
A lot of it was shot in Mexico. A lot of the off-road stuff was shot at Camp Pendleton.
Oh. So, very good. Well, everyone tells me that, and I know it's true, Steve McQueen was really a great motorcycle rider, a fiery competitor. Steve McQueen was really a great... Huh?
Not as good as Malcolm Smith and Mert Lawler.
That's what I was... But then you have Malcolm Smith, and then you have Mert Lawwell, and then Steve McQueen doesn't look really very good.
He wasn't as good as they were.
No.
That's what Malcolm told me one time.
I'm a friend of Mert Lawwell, and I'm trying to get Mert on this show. So if we can get Mert Lawwell on this show, I keep begging Mert, like, come on, Mert, you're getting old. Get on this show and let's talk. Let's talk on any Sunday. Okay. Enough of that. Enough of that.
I have one Steve McQueen story if you want me to tell it to you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, McQueen, well, let me set it up. I was announcing at Ventura, and there was a local Suzuki dealer named Conley Stewart in Ventura. And I built him up on the PA system as the man that taught Steve McQueen how to ride a motorcycle, which was totally bogus. But every week I'd be on the PA and talk about, there's Conley Stewart. He taught Steve McQueen how to ride a motorcycle. And I did it all season long. Then, toward the end of the season, one of the guys that hung around the track at Ventura went down to the Honda dealer in Oxnard, and in pulled Steve McQueen, his son, and his wife. And I blank, can't remember the name. What was it? She was an actress. Anyway, they pulled into the truck. They were going to Indian Dunes, and they had to get some plugs at this Honda dealer in Oxnard. So the guy was standing there as McQueen got out of the truck, and of all the questions he could ask him, he walked up to McQueen, and he said, "Mr. McQueen, is it true that Conley Stewart taught you how to ride a motorcycle?" And McQueen looked at him and he said, "Well, if he did a shitty job of it." Oh, that was classic.
That was not the answer that I thought I was going to hear from Steve McQueen.
McQueen was at the first Super Bowl of motocross. He was going in the pits talking to the riders in encouraging. 1972, June, LA Coliseum. He was there.
Wow.
Allie McGraw was his wife at the time, Allie McGraw.
Then they do the movie Bullet or something, and about that time,
Bullet.
The movie Bullet, yeah.
Bullet. 1968.
68, and then he did The Great Escape, where he rode the motorcycle over the fence.
Well, it really wasn't him, you know.
Yeah. You're not supposed to say that.
True.
Okay, say it. Oh, that's too funny. Yeah, I went to high school with this girl named Diane Costello, and I used to go to school in Orange, California, at El Medina, a school by Saddleback. You know Saddleback up there in the mountains.
Yeah.
And she told me she worked at this Orange Hill restaurant. I guess it's called the Mining Company or something. And
yeah, I know where it is.
You know the Orange Mining Company?
Yeah.
Do you know the Orange Mining Company? Yeah. And this girl, she was gorgeous. She was a blonde, blue eyes. I had the heartthrob for this girl all the time, but I was very shy, and she was in my classes in history and stuff. And she's gorgeous, and she worked as a hostess at the Orange Mining Company, and she said that she doesn't know much about motorcycles, and she was hostessing, and then Steve McQueen came in after riding Saddleback one day, and I guess they were drinking and they were drunk and they were partying and stuff, and she was telling me this whole story about McQueen, you know, coming back riding with the boys, and they were really rough and dirty. That was fun.
I believe Steve McQueen had a key to Saddleback, had his own key. I got to ask Vic Wilson that, but I think he had his own key so he could ride there anytime, I believe.
That's why he was at the Orange Mining Company, because he just got done riding at Saddleback and he was hungry. So it was funny. I heard that story from Diane because she's not really a motorcycle person, and when she saw my post about Steve McQueen, she told me the story when she was a hostess at the Orange Mining Company. So that was kind of funny. Let's see. Where are we at here? Let's get back to the story. Let's get back to the story. You were like in a lot of TV shows. I want to ask you, like, what did you do in these TV shows? You sent me your bio, and you were in like Fantasy Island, Chips, Knight Rider, Miami Vice, Charlie's Angels TV shows, all TV shows. Dynasty. What the heck did you do in those shows?
I was the announcer. They would bring me in to announce, like for instance, with Charlie's Angels. One of the shows we did was called Angels in the Backfield, and I was the football announcer for this fictional football game. And I did the same thing for Warner Brothers and 20th Century Fox and Universal. I would go in and narrate a part of the show. And it was simple. It was easy. I could do it in one. In fact, 20th Century Fox, the guys called me One Take Huffman because I get in, knock it out real fast. Interesting story on that. I got hired at Universal Studios to do a voiceover for Knight Rider, the TV show with David Hasselhoff. So I get to Universal, and I said, all right, where do we go? Where's the studio? I'm ready to go. And they said, well, you must rehearse, Mr. Huffman. I don't really need to rehearse. Show me the video, and we'll do it. I'll know it. No. You must rehearse. So he took me down this long hall, and there's these little recording studios as we walk by, and we finally get to the one they wanted me to rehearse in, and the guy that brought me along said, oh, there's somebody in the room. Don't worry, Mr. Huffman, we'll get rid of him. I said, I don't need to rehearse. No. So he goes in, I hear him say, you've all got to get out. Mr. Huffman is here, and he's ready to rehearse. And out walked Alan Alda and his whole showcast from, I forget the TV show. But I was blown away. I mean, he was thrown out of the room so I could get in. And I said, Mr. Alda, Larry Huffman, I have the same time next year with a wonderful movie. He just ignored me. He was, I don't know if he was mad or what. They threw him out because I needed to rehearse.
Well, he was on MASH. Alan Alda was on MASH. Was that the show or a different one?
It was something about spring. I never saw the show, so I don't know. And I had a principal role on Fantasy Island on camera, which was really neat.
That was a cool show, Fantasy Island. I loved that show when I was a kid.
Yeah, I think the producer heard me at the Coliseum. I think, and that's what led me to start doing all these TV show voiceovers. And then I got a call from the guy's secretary, the producer, Mr. So-and-so would like to meet you. He's heard you. Oh, great. I drove into Hollywood and took my little girl with me. And we had a nice chat. I got home and there was a message waiting for me from the secretary. She says, you got the part. I said, what part? You're going to be on Fantasy Island principal role this Saturday night. You got to be down at 20th Century Fox at 7 o'clock Monday morning. Here's what we'd like you to wear. We normally furnish you an outfit, but just wear a suit and tie. So I was on that Saturday night on Fantasy Island on camera. And one of the things that I did when I was announcing these events, football, baseball, whatever, or racing, I would throw my buddies' names in. And because I had to fill, and there's the guy, and there's the winner, and there's Marshall Klein. I would call Marshall Klein and tell him to watch Fantasy Island. He's going to be on. He did a story in the LA Times on it. But anyway, it went very well, and they liked me.
Oh, that's amazing! I didn't know that. That's really cool. Yep. All those shows are like done by the same producers or same like management company.
Well,
they're all.
They're different because, one's for Universal, one's 20th Century Fox, and one is Warner Brothers. I did it 3 different studios.
So there was 3. They were all classic TV shows back in the day and very successful.
Yeah, they were.
They're good. But those things are good. The next question, I want to ask you more about the Wiener Dog commercial for Miller Beer. I saw that during a Super Bowl one year. Do you remember the Wiener Dog?
The Wiener Dog Winter Nationals. I made a lot of money on that one, buddy.
So they paid good money for that because it was on the Super Bowl and World Series everywhere.
Well, I did it, and then I did a couple for the cigarette company, and I asked the producer. I says, "What's going to happen?" He said, "This is really a weird commercial. We're going to try it in a couple of markets. If it goes, it'll be really good." And it went nationwide, and like you said, the Super Bowl and the World Series and all that. The Wiener Dog International.
I saw that, like I said, and it was good. You did a good job. It was good.
It was a good spot. It was funny as hell and well done.
It was well done. So the producer said that it was going to be either really good or really bad. Is that what you said?
They didn't really know how to take it. He said, "This is so different than anything we've done that we have to test market it, and if it goes, it'll go pretty well. If not, it'll never go again. I did 2 commercials that day. One was I forget, drag racing lawyers or something. What was it? Luge bowling with a lawyers. I forget. It didn't go anywhere, but Winter Not Winter Nationals made a lot of money.
That was good. So it made you a lot of money, right? You got some change, yeah.
I got residuals for it. Whenever it ran, I got a check.
You got a big check for that one. Good job, Larry.
Good.
We like that one. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and talk about something, and I want you to answer my question, but I'm going to go ahead and ask you. You've actually had some of the best sayings ever when you announced Supercross. You really did. And I heard that when I was at Anaheim, especially, because I went every year to Anaheim, and I heard you every year. And you said things like, he's thicker than a mayonnaise sandwich. No damage done except for his underwear. In his underwear. He's tougher than a $2 stick. And the last one is, he's on him like a dog on a piece of meat.
One that got even better response was, he's so tough he goes to Mexico just to drink the water. I don't know where I got that, but it really got a lot of attention.
What was that again? Drinking the water?
He's so tough he goes to Mexico to drink the water.
I heard that one. What other ones did you come up with? Because I like those.
I don't know. They just, some friends, Warren Reed came up with a couple of real good ones that I used, and some I made up, some I stole.
Well, Warren Reed was on our show a couple of days ago, and he told me that you and Warren would do a show together in San Clemente every week, I guess. I think it was, and Warren was on the show. Was that Warren? Yeah, it was Warren, right?
Yeah, he was one of the regulars. He was really good. It was called Motorcycle World with Larry Huffman, and we were on satellite. It was very, very successful. Suzuki sponsored it.
Warren really liked you a lot, and
he's a good guy.
Warren is a great guy, and we really enjoyed having Warren, and he's just an amazing, human being, yep. And really have a lot of respect for Mr. Warren Reed. But he told me that he was a little mad at you. Did you know that or not? No?
What was he mad about?
When I was interviewing Warren, he told me that you and him, I guess, did a Speedway race. Maybe it was at the World Finals at the Long Beach, I think, and maybe it was. And I guess Warren was you and Warren announced that race, and then I guess you had Warren announce the D3 riders or something. So Warren was announcing all these crummy riders, crash wall guys, and then he said that you saved all the good riders for you, the Division 1 riders. Is that true?
I don't remember. Honestly, I don't.
Okay. Well, that's what he said, so I don't know if it's true, but I thought that was funny. I can see you saying, okay, Warren, I'm going to let you announce, but you're going to announce these names of these guys. Let's see. Let's find out some guys that you're going to announce the names. Okay, I got an old program here from Costa Mesa, it's from Irwindale. Let's see. And you're going to announce these D3 riders like Mike Carver, Elliot Sheltman, Andy Kiza, Joe Spizak, and Mike Beanway. So that's not really very good when you're announcing Danny Bazurko Becker, Wild Bill Cody, The Rocket, Rick Woods. So you had a better show than Warren, I think.
I honestly don't remember.
Anyway, that's funny. I guess he said you gave him the D3 rider, so you guys had a lot of time doing stuff. And Warren Reed really, I was just joking about he was mad. He wasn't mad. He was just talking, but we were just having fun. Just having fun. That's all. It wasn't really serious. Warren really loves you, and he worships you to no end. He really loves you a lot. So
he needs help. He's been alone too long.
He said you're the bomb, so you're the best.
He's a good guy. I enjoyed very
That's
much.
good. What else did you announce other than Speedway and Supercross? Did you announce motocross and hill climbing and stuff?
I think I did one or two hill climbs at Saddleback. I did the Mickey Thompson series, off-road racing. I did that. And wherever they needed an announcer, I'd go, and I could usually make it work.
You did. I don't know how you did it, but you did a good job. You did a good job. Back many years ago, when Gene Woods was a little kid, Gene Woods is like 1 year older than me, so I was a little kid, and I was always at the Costa Mesa Fairgrounds watching you and watching all the legends race when I was a young boy, like 12 years old, 10 years old, whatever it was. And I guess one night you had a young Gene Woods. He must have been like 12 years old or something. I was probably 11. And you interviewed him. Obviously, Gene was on my show, and he said that he was interviewed by you because his brother was Rick Woods. And he had a famous brother.
He also raced against Jeff Ward on a mini bike at Costa Mesa one year, and I think he beat him.
Well, beating Jeff Ward is no easy task.
Well, it was when he was 8 years old. I mean, somehow he beat him.
Well, I think Jeff was the wheelie kid in the On Any Sunny, the part one. He was that little boy standing on the foot pegs, and he was riding the wheelie across the. Oh, I'm Jeff Ward. I can ride the wheelie. Was that Jeff?
He may have been. I don't remember. I wasn't at the film.
I think that was Jeff on the movie. So when I was a young boy, Jeff was a couple years younger, and I used to go to the the motocross races, back in the day. I think you're announcing that one back at Saddleback in like 72 or 71 or 3.
What I did was a Cycle World U.S. Grand Prix at Saddleback in 1970. That was the first major race I announced.
So were you racing? Are you racing Saddleback in like early 70s? You didn't race out. You didn't do Saddleback, no? Okay.
I'm not a racer. I'm an announcer.
Did you announce the races at Saddleback in like the early 70s? Okay,
yes.
That was you.
Yes. And escape country.
Yeah. Oh, very good. Those are good. They used to be like 40 or 50,000 people at Saddleback lining the mountain hill. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah. There were a lot of people there.
I lived in Orange, like I told you earlier, and then as a kid, and then I would have my mom take me on her Pinto station wagon up to Saddleback with my bicycle. I had a Speedway bicycle at the time. It was a Speedway bike because I like Speedway. And she would drop me off at the races at Saddleback, and then I would go riding my bicycle around Saddleback during these motocross races that you announced. And then after the race, 40 or 50,000 people will come down that canyon going towards Orange to the 55 freeway. And I would be riding my little bicycle past all the people like, oh, goodbye. Because I lived, only a couple miles. And so I, rode my bicycle home. It was really fun. So we enjoyed those races. And you did a great job. You did a good job.
Thank you.
Yeah. I never dreamed at that time when I was a little boy riding a bicycle that I would be like interviewing Larry Huffman. I would probably like die if I thought about that, but it's really great to have you on the show, Larry, and to talk more about that. But Gene Woods, getting back to Gene Woods, we got off the subject about Gene Woods. Do you remember talking and having that interview with Gene that night? Because I was there. Did you remember that?
I remember seeing the picture of me interviewing him. That's the only thing I remember. I don't remember talking to him. Gene's a good guy. I've known him for 50 years. He's a really sharp guy, one of the smartest writers I've ever met.
Gene is really a great guy, and he just, had a lot of talent, and he was a hard charger, and he was a different rider than Rick, though, because Gene would ride the outside, and he was kind of like, he could ride all over the place. He could ride the pole, the outside. And it seemed like Rick was more of a pole rider. I'm not sure, but Rick liked the pole, and Gene could ride anywhere.
One time, Rick came to Costa Mesa and he was just cut from head to toe. And I said, "What happened? Did you crash?" Well, he was working for Sumner McKnight at his BSA Suzuki dealership on Beach Boulevard. He was working in the shop, and he assembled a new bike. And he went out on Beach. True story. Went out on Beach Boulevard. He had flip flops, shorts, and a T-shirt. And he went up Beach Boulevard and he gassed it to do a wheelie and had forgotten to put on the front nut on the front wheel. It fell off.
No.
He went over. Yeah, true story. Not Gene. Rick would. Forgot to tighten the bolt, the nut.
Oh, I did that once in a Speedway race. I was racing, I think at Costa Mesa when I was a young rider, maybe a D2 or I think it was a D2 rider. And when I was coming up, and I wasn't a good mechanic like Rick Woods, but Rick Woods was a good rider and I wasn't as good, but I could ride a little. And I forgot to tighten the back bolt on my Speedway bike, and in the middle of my Speedway race, my back tire fell off. And I'm riding, I crashed.
I'll bet that didn't happen again.
Never. And I was a terrible mechanic. And like I say, I can ride a little bit. But as far as a mechanic, I was like terrible. And my first race against Bruce Penhall, because we have Bruce Penhall on the show. Maybe I won't talk to Bruce about this because maybe he'd get mad. Maybe he'd leave my show. But hopefully Bruce isn't watching this show tonight because maybe he's pissed off or something. But my first race in D1, I was on the 0-yard line. It was at Costa Mesa. And Bruce was on, the 40 or the 50 or something back there. And I had my Jerry Fairchild JP. And on that JP, it had this big, heavy aluminum chain guard. It was really heavy. It weighed like, 2 kilos or something, like 6 pounds or something. It was really heavy. It was in the old days. And I had forgot to tighten up the chain guard really good because I was a terrible mechanic. I admit it, so at least I'm honest. And I was racing Penhall, and I think Rick Woods was in that race. And so I had Penhall and Woods, and I'm like, oh, God, I got these guys. And so I had to go fast because these guys are pretty good, right? They're good. And so I'm giving it all I have, and I'm in the lead, the whole race. I was at the 0-yard line, my first time, my first ever. And I'm racing, and anyways, I didn't know it at the time, but that heavy chain guard, Penhall was racing me, and he was beside me close by. And Penhall ended up beating me by only like this much. I actually bobbled. I had the lead the whole time at the very last turn on turn 4 on the last lap. It was like 6-lap race. I bobbled a little bit, and Bruce just snuck by me. He beat me by an inch. And I thought I beat him, and he beat me. So
Brian, you should explain what handicap racing is, because a lot of your viewers might not understand. But Penhall would start on the 60-yard line. You'd start on the 0-yard line, but you should explain that.
Yeah, basically in Speedway, Larry.
Let me throw in one thing real fast. Harry Oxley came up with that concept. He said, "Why should we put the guys that qualify fastest on the first line? Let's do it different. Let's put the Rick Woods and the Bruce Penhall down, put them back on the 60, so they have to pass all these other guys." And that was Oxley that did that, Harry Oxley.
Oh, very good. Well, what they did, like you said, is they take the novice, the new, like, let's say D1 riders or whatever, and they put them handicap in the front because they're not very good, right? They're not very good. They're new. And then if you're a little better, you go back to the 10-yard line in, let's say, Division 1. So you're not really fresh, but you're like a little bit better. And then they handicap you according to your ability. So the better you are, the more handicap you go back. So you go to the 20, the 30.
The more money you make from winning on the 60. Keep that in mind. If you won from the 60-yard line, you would make more money.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't
Absolutely.
know that. Oh,
Yep.
wow. Because somebody told me, and you weren't there. I think it was before your time, but somebody told me that when the Costa Mesa started, I think it was Greg Hazaroff. I think Greg was on the show, and he told me, I think it was him. Don't quote me, but they told me that when Costa Mesa opened up in 1969, that initially they didn't know how to handicap, the riders because it was kind of like, it was the first opening of Costa Mesa and everything was kind of new. But Rick Woods had won the 1968 United States Championship at Whiteman Stadium, so Rick Woods was a kind of a big name. He came in
Yep.
as a hot shoe. So Harry Oxley, I heard he handicapped Rick Woods at like the all the way halfway around the track, whatever yard line that is. And so when Rick Woods started, is that true?
I don't know if it was probably before I got there.
Well, I heard that, and from I think Greg Hazarock because he was there, so he was at the opening night because he was racing, and Greg told me, I believe it was, that they didn't know how to handicap the riders, so they handicapped Rick Woods all the way around. So when Rick Woods was starting the race, he could look over to his like left, and he could see the people on the 0 yard line straight across.
Yep. I think that's probably true.
But they had to change that because it was too far back. It was too far.
Yeah. Half a lap down is kind of tough.
Rick Woods, I think, could never recover from that handicap. So they moved him up to like the 60 and the 50 and like that. So it was a little better than like the 120 or something like that, or 150 or something. I don't know. Anyways, I met you. I know you don't remember this because like I was like a nobody, probably still am a nobody. But I met you when you were announcing back in, God, it was like 75, I think it was. I hate to even talk about it, but I was just a young rider and I had this old pair of uniform from Ron Taylor. He was a little Speedway rider, D1 rider back in the day. And he sold me this uniform and I was like 6 foot tall, 6'1", and Ron was about 5'7" or 5'6". To fit in this uniform, like, oh.
You said uniform. Actually, you're talking about his leathers, right?
I had to fit in Ron Taylor's leathers. Do you remember him?
Yep.
He's I think a little guy, right? Kind of smaller. I'm not sure.
Smaller than you.
So when I bought my first Speedway bike, it was only like 2 weeks later I was racing, and because I wanted to race before the end of the season, and I needed a pair of leathers, but I had no money because I was working as a paper boy saving my money, so I had no money. And so I went to Ron Taylor's house in Trabuco Canyon. He had a pair of uniform Speedway leathers for sale for like $50 or $40 or something. And I needed a pair of leathers because I couldn't race at Costa Mesa unless I had a uniform. So I went to Ron Taylor's house and I bought it, and it didn't fit me. I couldn't even wear the thing. It was a little guy, and I'm a big guy, kind of tall. But I didn't care because I could race Speedway if I had a Speedway leathers. And it had Ron Taylor's name on the front of it. And then I went ahead and cut all the name of all of his stuff off of it. And then I duct taped my name and silver duct tape, Brian, on the front of my leather. And my last name and my number and duct tape because I didn't have any money. So that was a funny story. And then I just went ahead and I was a really young raw rider. And then I met you at that time. The story was not about my uniform, but I told you that anyways. And the story was I was in the dressing room, that little room at Costa Mesa. Do you remember that?
Yep, in the pits.
The little rider's room there behind in the pit area. And I'm sitting there and I'm getting into this really small uniform and I'm like, oh. And then in comes Larry Huffman, the Supermouth, Larry Huffman, and you're putting on your tuxedo, I think it was. I guess you wore the tuxedo, correct? A lot at the Speedway?
Yep.
Tux, the black tux?
And Supercross.
And you wore that in Supercross and Speedway, I think. Also, you wore something really nice. I remember.
Yeah.
And I'm getting dressed, and I'm sitting there saying to I was 16 years old, so you know how young kids are, 16, they're very shy and stuff. And I was getting dressed, and then and you walked in, and I said, "Oh, I hope Larry Huffman doesn't talk to me, because I don't know what to say." and then you walked in, and you, huh?
Did I talk to you?
You did, and I was shocked. And you were really nice, and you're nice now, but you're really nice, and you said to me, like, "Hey, Brian, how are you doing?" And I'm like, "Larry Huffman's talking to me." And I said, "Oh," I was like, "I'm doing fine, Larry." I was shy. I was like hiding, like, "Oh, fine." And you said, "So tell me about your racing, Brian," and stuff. And I'm like, "My racing? I'm a D3 rider, I can't tell you. I'm crashing all the time. I can't tell you my racing." But you were really nice. And I always remembered, and I always cherished the time that you came in when I was a raw rookie. I mean, this was the beginning. I didn't have gloves on. I had a uniform that didn't fit me.
Yeah.
And Larry Huffman is talking to me. So thank you, Larry. You're a great guy.
Cool. Well, it's been a pleasure being on with you, buddy. I got to get some dinner.
Yeah, thank you so much. And we appreciate you being on the show. And we had you for an hour. So I told you we could do it for an hour. And thank you so much. Tomorrow night, we have Bruce Penhall. And tonight, we have the amazing Larry Huffman. So thank you so much, Larry, for being on our show. We appreciate it. We wish you all the best. And I was going to ask you one quick question. Are you going to do any other announcing, or are you retired?
I've been approached by a promoter in Bakersfield who wants me to announce a series of races, and we'll see. This COVID thing, everything's on hold. Nobody knows what's going to happen. But if they hire me, give me a microphone, I'll go to work.
Great. And Larry Huffman's not retired. Remember that. That's cool. I didn't know that. So thank you so much, Larry, for joining us. You're amazing. You're a legend. And we honor and respect you so much. And in the motorsports world, not only Speedway, but everywhere. So thank you so much for joining us in the Hive, Larry.
I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun. Thank you, man.
Okay, you got it, brother. That was Larry Huffman. Larry Huffman was in the Hive. Man, that was fun. Larry Huffman, I mean, that guy's a legend. And we're so happy that we had him tonight in the Hive and was able to talk to him about some early day Speedway and his memories. And, he's just a great guy. And I respected him since day one. Since he said hi to me in the locker room, I was like Larry Huffman. And he was just an amazing legend of the announcing motorsport world. And so we had one legend on tonight and another legend tomorrow morning in California. The show is going to start at 9 a.m. and it's going to be great. I'm going to go ahead and start, planning it out right now. I'm very excited. So we're going to have Bruce the Fox Penhall on the show at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. It's going to be on YouTube on the channel. You don't want to miss Bruce Penhall. I mean, he was the bomb, He was the greatest rider in American history, him and Greg Hancock. And they just, it was amazing. And then he was the top 5 in the world, like the famous riders. They had like Ivan Major, and Bruce Penhall was right there. So, I mean, Bruce Penhall, he was a 2-time world champion, and we're going to have Bruce on. He has thousands of fans and stuff. So this is going to be a big show, and we're really excited and grateful and honored to have the legend Bruce the Fox Penhall on the show. So that's going to be soon, and it's going to be tomorrow morning in California at 9 a.m. So you won't want to miss the legend Bruce Penhall. I'm telling you, it's going to be a great show. Watch it live on YouTube at the Brian B channel. So thank you so much for joining us for the Larry Huffman Shuffle Show. And we're really grateful to have Larry on the show. What a legend Larry Huffman was and is today. And he's going to announce still in Bakersfield maybe. So that guy is just a great. So thanks so much for joining us. Stay safe, you guys, riding on the motorcycle. I'm going to go riding today. I'm going to go like spin some laps on the street. So we're going to have some fun today. And we're going to have Bruce Penhall's show later on tomorrow, California time, 9 a.m. So thank you so much. Don't crash. Stay on two wheels and be safe. And have a great day from the Bumblebee Hive. Have a good one. Take care.